protest wasn't the end goal? What if the end goal was to recruit people from the protest into long-term solutions, long-term structure? Filing exempt won't do much. Anything that you do on your own will not work. The majority of people can't stop working. A one-day general strike isn't going to do much. We should follow how they made it work. One day is important, but all one day does is show people what's possible. They need multiple non-corporate alternatives. If the majority of people in Minnesota don't have a way to get their food from a non-corporate grocery store, the strike won't work. The majority of Minnesotans spend their money on health insurance every month, and all that money goes directly to corporations. Y'all, all of our housing, mortgages go to corporations. Rent goes to corporations. So how can we effectively strike and boycott when we depend on the very same people that we're supposed to be striking and boycotting against? We are trying to bite the hand that feeds us. Literally. So they're like, yo, we have no reason to change for you. You have no leverage. You have no way to force our hand. So let's build back the leverage. Protesting on its own used to work when we had leverage, when we had ways to force their hands. But right now, we do not have that. We have to understand that corporations are just middlemen. It's not like corporations built this country. We built the damn country. Corporations were just middlemen. They weren't even middlemen that created things. They're simply middlemen that limit access. So once we realize that they don't do anything, they just buy up all of the goods and the services from people that provide the goods and services, and they limit our access to them so they can make more money. So what we're going to understand is that our power doesn't lie in creating as much scale as they did. Our power lies in caring more, not about profits, not about money, but about the community. That's the only way that we win. We show people that we build, we show people what the new world looks like, because essentially right now the economy does not work for us. It works against us. And until we have an economic system that works for people instead of against them, it will never work, right? Because what it is, though, is that the majority of people do not have local options. And we don't have local options because corporations and politicians have worked together to keep us so boxed in economically that we can't do anything politically. So one of the solutions, one of the many solutions, is to see how do corporations control access and how can we offer people something better. So grocery stores versus local markets. Local markets used to be the thing. Grocery stores were easier for all of us. They were more efficient. And back when the grocery stores cared about the community, they worked better for all of us. But the corporations decided that they owned the food, that they aren't just stewards of the food in our community, that they own the food. We don't need more local options. We need to build more local options. It's not just about saying we need more local. You need to go build more local options, Renee. That's what this is about. Our Discord is where everybody that says we need more local options is going. We are breaking out by state. You find people in your state and you discuss the local options. Then when there's a local option that isn't available, like if you don't have a local grocery store, you build it. Then when there's a local option that isn't available, like if you don't have healthcare that works for you, you build it. And people just need to see that the system that we've heard whispers about our whole life is actually real. It's possible because it used to be this way. We heard our parents and our grandparents talk about it used to be that companies cared about us. It used to be that companies put the community ahead of profit. Well, that only happened when companies were a part of the community, when they cared about us. Now there is 1,000 different communities that corporation can rely on. So they don't care about you. Corporations do not care about you. Corporations don't care about their customers. So we need to replace them. We need to recognize they are nothing but middlemen that don't add any value. They restrict access. So it's not going to be the fact that you can offer as much food as a grocery store can offer. But you know what you can offer? You can care more. So that is where we start. We build businesses that beat and co-ops that beat corporations, not because we offer more extensive options, but because when you walk into our place of business or when we meet up with you, we will provide customer service because we actually care about you, because we're a part of the community. We realize that we're providing a community service. And most of all, we want to beat the corporations and have non-corporate alternatives. Well, the way we beat corporations isn't by being bigger. It isn't by offering more. It's by caring more about your community members, about your customers. And all this takes is 15 or 20 people. Is you talk, if you can coordinate with 15 or 20 people, you can do this. Because what this really is putting together a bulk order. That's it. We are starting with food buying groups. Everybody needs to buy food, and we do it once a week. So if we are consistently giving the corporations our money, this is an easy way to push back. Yeah, political Grammy, and there's nothing we are going to be able to do about it. We could have 1 million, 2 million, 5 million people in the streets tomorrow, but the corporations do not care because they know they can wait us out. That's all it comes down to. We have no leverage. We demand change, but they'll say, we'll just wait till they have to go back to work. That's all. The corporations and politicians are working in cahoots to make sure that our economic situation keeps us so stuck that we have nothing that we can do politically. Because what we need to do is boycott. But we can't boycott if there's no local options or if there's no non-corporate options. And there's no local options for the majority of people to buy local food, right? There's no local options for the majority of people to buy healthcare. So we need to start building those things. Strikes, boycotts are the most important step. How do we make strikes and boycotts actually work? Strikes require the majority of people to have economic freedom. Well, we don't have that right now. So we need to build a parallel system that gives people economic freedom. One of the ways you build that parallel system is you beat the corporations. And you don't beat corporations by offering more. That's impossible. We beat corporations by caring more. We care more about our community. We care more about our customers because that's what we all want anyway. We want to go to a general store that actually cares about us as a customer and a community member. We want to go to a grocery store that cares about providing quality food and customer service. They aren't even devils. They are just incentivized to screw us over. So what if we change the incentives? Right now, people in charge of our food, they're incentivized to screw us over and exploit us and make as much money on that food as possible. Not just buy local, build local. There's not enough local options. If corporations are always the most efficient and the cheapest option, we will never defeat them. So it's not that we can just go to our current local, because guess what? A lot of the local stores, they buy their products and services from the giant mega corporations. And that's not their fault too. It's just that's how it works. Your local restaurant is still buying their food from Sysco. They're getting all their food delivered in a corporate truck each week. And yeah, you're going and you're eating at that local store, but you're eating food that was created by a corporation. And so we speak up. We say, we're done with this. Fix this. 50, 60, 70% of us don't want this society. So why doesn't it change? Who else was at one of the No Kings and said, what's next? What are we doing next? That's what I kept asking about the Minnesota strike. It's great they were doing one day. When can they get to 1 week? And the only way you can get to 1 week is by having more local options, is by having people in a community purchase food from other people in a community. Because local co-ops didn't used to be called co-ops. It used to be called how we got our food. You would go to a farmer, and whatever the farmer had, you would buy. Terry, and that's exactly what we are doing, is we are building up our Discord. It is broken out state by state. Every single person that comes in is able to go to their state, find a different group, right? But political Grammy, that's where nothing will change unless people understand how we build back leverage. So we can do as many protests as we want, but if we all go to the grocery store, so this is where I don't know how to handhold it for you anymore. So we take, what's up, Black Camilla? We take the three things that humans need to live: food and housing and healthcare. Food is a good place to start. And we show people that we didn't always buy our food from grocery stores. We make it easier. We make it better quality service to get food from a local provider. That's it. I don't know how many more times to say it. Instead of all of us going to the grocery store to buy food, get 40 or 50 people to buy local eggs with you. So we just put a post on the top of the Instagram. Instead of having grocery stores that own all our food, what if we had local food distributors that saw themselves as stewards? That's what this is about. Stewardship over ownership. Corporations have made it so that they own everything because that benefits them. But how does it benefit society for a couple people to own all the food? How does it benefit society for a couple people to own all the healthcare? Costco is fine. It's not that it's just local. It's like these it's non-corporate, but non-evil corporate. Because what we are doing ultimately, whether we are building the local food distributors or whether we are buying from Costco, we are pointing to the fact that, look, we are going to change the incentives. We will no longer buy from corporations that screw us over, right? And all Costco is a big co-op, a big employee-owned business that figured out incentives that work for everybody. Costco incentivizes its employees by offering a great salary, and it can do that because Costco doesn't exploit us on the things we buy. Costco makes their money from a membership. That is exactly what we're doing. Jabroni says we got to hit them in their wallets, economic blackout, but we can't right now. We can try, but where would most of us go to get our food? Most of us go to a corporate-owned grocery store. not because we want to, because we have to in a lot of cases, because there is nothing else for us to depend on. Luke, we're with you there, but they are an example of a place that has opposite incentives, right? So, Gamma, number one, you've got to change your perspective, because I can feel the hopelessness coming out of you. And it does not work if the majority buy from local options. You don't get people to change their mind like that. What really is, you don't convince people who have been riding horses their whole life that a car is better. You never have a moral argument that a car is better than a horse, especially when the person riding the horse has only ever known horses. They love horses and they use them out of habit. They depend on them to live. What we have to do is build a car. What we have to do is show people that you're not just buying from local options. This is how we build local options. And when we build local options that work for people instead of against them, we're out of the realm of politics. You don't need to convince people to use something better. Grocery stores didn't have to call us and convince us to stop using local markets. Car companies didn't call us and convince us to stop using horses. Streaming didn't call and convince us to stop using cable. They built better options. Systems don't get fixed. Systems get replaced when the old one gets abandoned. And the old one only gets abandoned when better options come along. That's what it is. So we need to build the better options. And so, but that seems impossible because we look out there and we're wondering, how can we compete with those big box stores? And what it is that we are never going to compete with them on scale. We can compete with how much we care. And it's not about a few of us. This is going to be 1 million small businesses, 1 million local co-ops. That's exactly what we were talking about. So that's where, not with food, not with healthcare. And so that's what we have to understand is, what do we really need to live, where if we are buying local, we're not just buying from another big business. Because a lot of our local companies just purchase their products from mega corporations. So CSAs are often more expensive because the CSA puts all of the onus on the farmer to get to do the marketing, to find all the people. CSAs will always be more expensive. What we are basically proposing is that farmers want to farm. They don't want to go find 100 people to come shop at their farm every single week. We need to be the ones that are helping connect the people that want to eat local food with the people that grow local food. Because right now, if you think about it, that's all a grocery store really does. It goes to 10, 20, 30 farmers, buys up all their food, takes it to the grocery store, and resells it to us for 3 or 4 times the price. Community stewards, co-op brokers, whatever it may be. But Jabroni, that's where it is. If we bring 50, 100 people to that local farmer, and the farmer didn't have to do the work, the farmer's going to be able to offer better prices, right? Absolutely. So it's not even grocery stores because we don't have the money for infrastructure. This is literally local food buying groups. Jay Tracy, we connect on Discord if you want to hop on. We're live every day at 11 a.m. But this isn't about relying on what's already there. We've done that and it doesn't work. Y'all, I am sick of not having our voices heard. How do we make our voices heard? Through strikes and boycotts. But strikes and boycotts are not effective right now. Because for strikes to be effective, the majority of us need to have economic freedom. And for boycotts to be effective, we need non-corporate alternatives. So that's why our protests and our mass actions have not been as successful as we'd like, because the people in charge are only afraid of two things: strikes and boycotts. And for striking, we do not have enough economic freedom. And for boycotts, we do not have enough non-corporate alternatives. So you ask, Chris, Brian, that's only going to hurt you, and it's not going to fix the problem long term. Because Minnesota had a great one-day strike. But if the businesses know that they're not going to get hurt from a strike, how successful is it? If I had a multi-billion-dollar business that had work in Minnesota, and I knew that for 1 million people in Minnesota, I was the only grocery store within 30 miles. Are you really worried that people are not coming to your grocery store the next day? I don't know how to say your name, but IP Fizzin is. We already are. So we have broken out into state, and those states are breaking out into regions. And what the whole goal is, it's so that people understand why our voices have not been heard yet, because we don't have any leverage. We don't have any leverage, not because we're doing the wrong thing. Striking and protesting are the right things. It's just that striking requires us to have economic freedom, and boycotting requires us to have local and non-corporate options. So what if, instead of the protest being the goal, what if the goal of the protest was to get as many people as possible so we could recruit them into building infrastructure that makes the next strike last longer? Oh, well, and be human. Even if the masses get out there, the politicians don't work for us. Reclaim locally. Good to see you. The politicians don't work for us, so they don't care if we're out there. Politicians only care what the corporations say. This is why we're stuck, because we measure success by how many people went outside. How big did we make the protest? And that's kind of what I'm saying, is that protests only matter if we have the ability to strike and withhold our economic power, and boycott and shift our economic power elsewhere. Light of Miss Lee, that's what we're doing. So what we need to understand is that protesting cannot be the measure of success. Protesting should be step one. Protesting should be the funnel. Protest, what? Yeah. So we're gonna get Ted out of here because people are, I don't know what's going on, Ted. So what protest should be, we should say, I wonder how many people signed up to build the infrastructure, not how many people were there. I don't give a crap how many people were there. I want to know how many people are going to do something the next day, and then 3 days after that, not because they're doing their own thing, but because everyone was given common steps. Because everyone was given the same tools from a common tool shed. Because we all understand that we need to work towards making our voices heard. We make our voices heard by having leverage when we speak. Because right now we go, we're going to protest, or we're going to strike, we're going to boycott. And the corporations go, for how long? The majority of you have to go back to work to buy food, and the rest of you have to go back to afford your housing. What are you going to do when we start shutting down the grocery stores so you can't buy food anywhere? What do we do if we tell people, if you are striking, you're not allowed to get your medicine? These are corporate-owned pharmacies. They are our property. And if anybody that has diabetes, you can't have your insulin unless you go back to work. That's all they need to do. Right, Terry? Because power isn't who writes the laws. Power isn't who sits in Congress. Power is who controls a nation's food supply. Power is the people that can cut off your prescriptions without any blowback. Oh, that's a good one, Cookies. I haven't gotten that one yet. It must be the red. So Billy V, that's where we need to understand that protests are the most powerful thing we can do. But if protests are the end goal, we never change anything. What if the protest wasn't the goal? What if the protest was the recruitment zone? What if the protest was the funnel to say, this is good that you came out today, but we need you to do something tomorrow and the next day. And it's not even going to be hard. Just change your economic choices. Because but we don't have the underlying infrastructure. Because in the past, protesting used to mean we got politicians to listen. When politicians used to work for us. But now politicians only work for the corporations. So protesting is not effective because protesting doesn't affect corporations. So how do we get protesting to affect corporations? We recruit people from the protest to boycott and strike. But that's what we're doing right now, right? We are telling so many people boycott. We are telling so many people strike. But they can't boycott because there's not a lot of non-corporate options for your food. We all pay our health care to the corporations, and you're not going to not pay your health care. We all pay our rent and our mortgage to a corporation. So the things, our car, we buy from corporations. Our gasoline, we get from corporation. Our electricity and the energy, we get from corporations. So how can we just say, oh, boycott and strike, and that'll make it work? That's why boycotting and strike have not worked. So this is what we're doing, Miss Lee. You just got me real excited. So I already have the idea. We already are doing local food distributors. Groceries are nothing but middlemen. Grocery stores are nothing but middlemen. They go buy all the food from the farmers and they sell it to us, and they control access, so they charge exorbitant prices, right? What I am really excited about, because I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So we buy so much clothes, and the wife and I have not bought anything from a corporation in a long time. So what we have in our area is an online consignment market, where basically, as soon as we're done with our bag of clothes, we give it to this group of people. They sell it online and give us a chunk of money. Then they offer pickup spots for people around the county so that people don't have to drive far, so you know it's not going to get bought out from under you. This is the parallel economy that we're talking about. We already can do it with local food distributors. Jacqueline said the same thing on TikTok. Jacqueline, that's what we're doing. We call it local food distribution, and it's basically putting together a bulk order. So only words will work. It is futile to try anything else. So Jacqueline, this is what we are building, is we are making a local impact by showing a better option. So, and you are so right, Light of Miss Lee, because that is what we are doing. Basically, people already understand this. We don't want to be buying from corporations, but we don't know. We were all born into this system, and we don't have any other options. How many people were alive in the early 90s? How many 80s babies we got up in here? 80s babies that heard whispers of a different world. One where people actually cared about their customers and their community. because a business used to know that the health of my business relies on the health of the community. But as soon as a business got too big for its britches and had 10,000 communities, it didn't need to rely on any individual community. So they figured out that we could screw over as many people as possible because they have to use us. And because we have to use corporations, they know that our strikes and our boycotts don't have any leverage. We cannot force their hand. So, Miss Lee, this is what we do. I will build it this week if you want to do it with me. So, number one, you got to start in the Discord, because the Discord is where you're going to find your first customers for this idea, for the other people that are going to build this co-op with you. That's where it is. And what it is we've got it for food. We have the local food distributor. If you go to the Instagram page, we are able to, I put that up there. And then we're figuring out that, hey, all grocery stores are middlemen. They don't grow the food. They don't buy the food. They're middlemen that control access to the food. So why don't we just call the farmer? They live in our community, in our county, in our zip code anyway. Why don't we just call the farmer and go around the corporations? For clothes and reselling furniture, instead of going and buying it from the corporations who are charging you so much money for these clothes and this furniture, what if we went to the people in our community that were selling it? Well, this is why we need connectors. Because if you need 20 pieces of clothing, you don't want to drive to 20 different people's houses. But if Light of Miss Lee started an online consignment store where she told people, if you're getting rid of bags of clothes, give them to me. I will give you your profit from selling it as soon as we sell it. You don't have to donate your stuff to a Goodwill or something like that, where the CEO is going to see most of the money. You can sell it to people in your community so that people in your community do not have to buy from a corporation, so that they can save more money. And basically, the biggest thing that we can do is reduce people's dependence on corporation. Because as soon as you talk about violence, we don't have you in the conversation anymore. That's almost a funny question, right? Because I honestly believe as soon as you do something that makes your opinions, not as serious, it's just not. I only want to do things that will actually make us win. Talking like that and doing that will not lead to actual victory. That's all. I feel that same anger. I'm just as frustrated. But I don't want to, I'm thinking about my little daughter. That's it. I just want my daughters to not have to grow up around burning things. I want them to go around working things. An economy and a world that works for them instead of against them. And if we are the people that are burning things, how can we also be the people that build a better tomorrow? That's what gets me going. That's what gets me so frustrated. Yes, we are all angry, but if we just let out that anger and frustration, what good does it do? That's what the whole talk has been about today. Letting out our anger and frustration is what protesting is. But unless you have a long-term plan to develop, okay, we've protested, our voices are not heard. That is because we do not have leverage. We don't have leverage because we're so boxed in economically that we can't make any changes politically. That's what it is. I don't have all the answers, but I know that violence isn't the answer, because I am trying to build for the next generation. And if that is the example that we put forth, there will be no more progress. That's all it comes down to. Progress. Because what it really is, it's not that hard. This system may be built on violence, like you said, but people aren't born that way. That's what it is. People are made that way. We have been told that competition is the way of society, that competition is just the way it is. So we watch the people up top who have stepped on other people and screwed other people to get to where they are. But that is not the path forward we will ever take. Not only because that is not the natural way of humans. Yes, we are tribal. Yes, we look for the other. But if we are born into a world where we show, no, the other is there to support you, not take from you. No, people are not more lazy when they're given what they need to live. In fact, when people have food and housing and healthcare, they are more efficient. And I think if we come from a platform of just, hey, no, food, housing, and healthcare makes people more efficient, 30-40% of people might push back against that. But if our whole platform is to give people housing and to give people food and to give people health care, sure, some people will push against us. But eventually they'll be like, I could go work 40 hours a week to get my food and housing and health care. Or this group of nice people who have a really lot of cross-section of different Americans who are just saying, oh, what if we work together instead of against each other? Right? That's about it. Because that's how we left the jungle in the first place. I was sick of fellow citizen taking the food that I left overnight. Right? We're all sleeping in the jungle. I put my food there and boom, it's gone the next day. I go, all right, enough of that. Let's start working together because you could take my shit. I could take your shit. We could all steal each other's shit and be competitive, and we'll never make any progress. But when we decided to stop stealing other shit, we started killing bison and woolly mammoth, and we started farming. And we understood that if we took care of each other, all of us go farther. The easiest way to say it is that how many Einsteins died in a factory because they were born to the factory employee instead of the factory owner? It's more efficient to have a society set up where the majority of people can reach their fullest potential. Because if the majority of people reach their fullest potential, and if they get to live their life not based on money, not based on spinning a wheel to merely survive, then they're not living their life based on obtaining money. They're living their life based on affecting change. Wouldn't it be amazing if all of those people that went to the brain drain of Wall Street to try to figure out how to make $1 extra per second for their billionaire owner figured out how to make life better for all of us instead? And in order for that to happen, we'd have to realign their incentives away from just money and towards helping others. And I believe this is why so many people are unfulfilled, because even if you have money, all that does is make sure you have security and makes it that you're not unhappy. But the only way people can be happy is through human connection. And the only way that we can get back human connection is if we have more economic freedom so that we're not stuck for what we need to live, right? So, and that's the thing is I believe, NB, I really appreciate you coming around, because I truly believe that once people understand that life is about connection and money just fosters that connection, and that when more people have the ability to foster that connection, life is better for everyone. I want us all to think, how do you create an efficient human? How do you create somebody that works hard, that does what they're supposed to? It's not by withholding the things they need to live. How do I make this person more efficient? Well, I'll make sure that they're always worried about where their food comes from, right? How do I make this person more productive? Well, I'll always make sure that they do not know where their housing comes from, right? And what we have to understand is if people's head are still in the sand, there's not a lot of use in talking to them, right? People only really wake up when they get personally affected, right? So that's where we've got to understand is the majority of people that don't see there's a problem, there's no use in talking to them. You could spend so much more of your energy on people that either think that they're the problem, that they need to work harder, they need to budget smarter, or where we can really make a difference are the people that see the systemic problem, but they think that protesting is the end goal, whereas protest should be the very first step of recruiting people to a deeper structure, because this is what is so goddamn cool. It is a feedback loop. If at the protests we give people structure, that structure will make the next protest bigger. Dave Anderson, good to see you, my friend. So the protests, we recruit people to make the next boycott and strike longer, because boycotts need more non-corporate alternatives to be successful. And if we can't even boycott, we can't even think about striking, because striking requires economic freedom. So, Kristen, that is what we are building. So in Blackout the System, in our Discord, we are building a database of local co-ops. Everybody is breaking out by state. The people that are in your state, you are talking about how do we figure out options. We map out all the options that are in our area, and we support those businesses the best we can. The best part, though, Kristen, is when we map it out and there is a hole where something we don't have, like a local grocery store. That's when you build it, right? So say where you're at in Arkansas, you only have corporate grocery stores. Well, you go, dang, we actually have a couple doctors in the area that do direct primary care, and we don't need to pay our money to the insurance corporations. And we've actually got a couple other, options that we can have, but we don't have any local food. But damn, we've got a lot of farmers. And all we're saying is what you need to do is get 15, 30, 50 people, whatever you can get. And you don't say, hey, we're dropping out of the system, this or that. It's now corporations don't care about us. We only have one corporate option. We only have one option in our town. What if instead of all of us shopping at that grocery store, we all got together and called the local farmer? Because all the corporation is a middleman. They just restrict access. The farmer's the one growing the food. We're the ones buying the food. But somehow the corporations make all the money. And Ocean Wellness, you are so right. But right now, we can't vote with our dollars. That's the thing. It looks like we can, because for a lot of our options, they've spun off 10 different corporate brands that all compete against each other. But for some things, we can't, right? Grocery stores are a big one. It's like 80% of Americans, either a corporate grocery store is the cheapest, the closest, or the most efficient. And if it's not one of those things, you know what it is? It's our habit, right? I have hated corporations my whole life. But also what I really hate is wasting some time, is having to go 20 more minutes somewhere else when I don't have to. So literally, NB, we're probably the same type of person that's very passionate about this. But if we have to drive 30 minutes one way, man, the efficiency argument kills it, right? That's what the idea is, NB. There are going to be other people. If there is literally no other option besides corporate, Shit, I say we get some flyers, we go slap it at the entrance to that corporate grocery store, and it says, sick of food deserts? Sick of only having one option? We're forming a group that's buying straight from the farmer. It'll be cheaper. It'll be easier. It'll be healthier. Text this number if you want a bulk order with us, because that's all we need to do. Yo, we're putting together a bulk ordering group. That's it. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And here's the thing. You might be asking, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. You can make money. Like, co-ops make money. Local businesses make money. They're not there to exploit people, but they need enough to live, right? So if you get it up to 50 people, 75 people that you are coordinating to get their food from a local farmer, you could say, hey, y'all, I need to add 25-cent coordination fee because I'm working 6 hours a week to help coordinate this. And B, you just said it. You just said it. And here's the part I'm going to highlight. What this does is it takes politics out of the equation. That's the beauty. We're not arguing. We are not trying to convince. All we are doing is offering an option that works for people instead of against them. This takes politics out of the equation while also solving our biggest problem, corporate dependence. Because it doesn't matter if you're wearing a red hat or if you have blue hair. If you hear of a company that cares about you, that cares about your family, that says, I'm going to offer you a better service, better quality, and the price might be 50 cents higher, people will flock to us because they are so sick of having their eyes rolled at them by the employee. Not because the employee is a bad person, because the employee doesn't get paid enough to care. But we know that if we shopped at a local food distributor, at a local consignment store, at a local primary care, at a local co-op, that those people are incentivized to take care of us. Because the whole business model relies on one thing, not being bigger, not being faster, not offering more money or not offering more products by caring more than corporations. K21, you need to join the Discord. That's where we build this out. But what this is we just are recognizing that it's not going to be changing 50 million people's minds. Never. Systems don't get fixed. People's habits don't get changed because you convince them. People only change their habits when a better option comes along. When a better option comes along. And right now, we are fighting against nostalgia. This corporate option is all that people know. And even though they know that it's not right that the companies in charge of our food actively try to make us unhealthy, and the companies in charge of our healthcare actively try to not provide quality care. They know something's wrong, but they will always defend it because this system is all that they know. And because the people in charge have worked so hard to brainwash them. We got to stop being mad at the people that got brainwashed and start being mad at the people doing the brainwashing. Because the brainwasher didn't mean to be brainwashed. Right? The person doing the brainwashing is the ones that we should be. And we should ask, why are they doing this? So, to fix this, it's not going to take a lot of people. Yeah, dude, it's going to be 200 people. 2 people, 4 people per state that say, I'm sick of this. I'm ready to build the alternative. I'm just going to do it. And what we are starting with is you just need to talk to one person, 3 people a week, 1 person a day, whatever works for you. But it needs to be small. We don't need to take a bunch. We don't need to run forward. Take a small step every day and take it together. What if 1,000 of us, 100 of us all decided to do the local food distributor? What if somebody else decided to do the local consignment shop? And we said, we're going to not bite off more than we can chew. We're going to talk to one person a day. One person a day. Hey, if I got a bunch of people together to buy eggs from a farmer, would you buy eggs with us instead of going to the grocery store? Yep, you don't need to buy it every week. You order on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Thursdays, we give the order count to the farmer. And on Fridays, we all meet up and pick up our eggs. Easy as that. Online consignment store. You find 10 new parents, 10 people that are getting rid of their a bag of clothing, maybe an old coffee table. You make the coffee table look better. You split the profit from the clothes with the people that gave them to you. They make some money. They don't have to go donate it. Other people in the community get clothes for like $2. And it takes away our biggest issue, which is corporate dependency. This is a small business revolution. We all need a side hustle anyway. The side hustle might as well screw over corporations, help our community, make you some money, show a new system, right? This is all that we're saying. If all of us are struggling to make ends meet anyway, let's have our side hustles work against the corporations rather than for them. So we have the people that say, these are businesses with no capital, no startup costs, and you do have a competitive advantage because you will not be a corporation and you will care about your customers. Y'all, I literally have a successful business that is successful because we follow this model. We were like, oh, if we just are really nice to our customers, and if we understand that what makes us competitive with corporations isn't the fact that we offer this huge array, it's that we offer a few things, we're good at it, and we do it with a smile. Because people want to be served by people that care. Do you know how much I hate going somewhere and the person will not give you the time of day? And it's like, but this is your job. And then you think, well, they're not getting paid enough to care. Minimum wage, minimum effort. And really, I don't want to shop there. It's just that that's really the only option that we have. I hate going to Walmart and having the Walmart employee roll their eyes at me when I ask them where something is. But I don't blame that Walmart employee. They don't get paid enough to care. And if we walked our asses out and went to Dave's General Store, well, Walmart would start paying them enough to care. But because there is no competition, we can't vote with our dollars. So because we can't vote with our dollars, they don't raise our salaries because customers can't walk their ass out the door. And if customers can't walk their ass out the door, guess what we can't do? We can't boycott. Ted, what about this? What if all yard sales were held in the Walmart parking lot? What if all farmers markets were in the Walmart parking lot? What if we created some goddamn competition? What if people were allowed to go set up at the Home Depot and Lowe's and just go sell little nails or whatever they needed? Competition is what will raise their salaries. Because I guarantee you, if every single city council offers financial incentives for small businesses to start 10 general stores, and they say, all right, every Walmart in America, there you go. And that's where, so Not everyone is going to understand this. So if you see just someone pushing back and pushing back and pushing back, you have to understand, don't hit your head against the brick wall. It's frustrating. It's annoying. And the main thing is, not everyone is ready to hear this. We need people that don't believe there is a problem won't see this as a solution, right? People either think that they are making wrong choices, which case we can show them, no, you're not. They think that the system is just stacked against them, and that's the way it always is and always will be, and it just isn't, because it's structural, and that structure has changed in the last 40 or 50 years. Things weren't like this in the previous generation. Things weren't like this 40 and 50 years ago. Zena, there has always been a new technology that has made it harder for workers. And there's always been some catastrophic thing. 3,000 years ago in ancient China, there was a knife developed that cut rice more quickly. And all of the workers were excited because they're like, shoot, instead of working 40 hours, we can now work 20 hours. But all of that technological advancement didn't go to the workers, right? It went to the employees. And there's no difference with what happened with the internet. So we are still dealing with the internet only working for the ultra wealthy instead of for us. And now we are taking that even further with AI. But AI is actually nothing to be afraid of. It will only accelerate the amount of people whose eyes are waking up. Because let's be honest, people don't change their minds unless it personally affects them. So they don't understand, how can you want food and housing if you don't even work? And it's like, well, I can't work. There's literally no jobs. In this town, there used to be 1,000 jobs, but Tyson Foods just shut the plant because now they can do twice as much in their AI plant that's 6 states over. So there are literally no jobs. So what do? So when it starts affecting more and more people, that's when we need to be there. Because it's basically right now, we are saying there's a better way. There's another structure we can go to. This structure is crumbling. But people will never leave a house that they know, will never leave a house that they depend on unless we build something else. Unless you build the exit. Because right now we're saying, hey, shouldn't we leave? Shouldn't we go? But we're just saying, shouldn't we go? We're not saying, let's go to that house. And as soon as enough of us build that example, that we're not just talking about it, we can show them. Because think about this, no matter how bad your current housing situation is, would you leave it if you couldn't see the new house? No matter how bad your situation is, because it could always be worse, right? That's really all it comes down to. So we could say, hey, do you hate your house? Awesome. If you hate your house, I got a new one for you. It's better. Right? But if we can start building the new one, showing them that corporations are just middlemen. They want us to believe that we ride on their backs, but they don't. They actually ride on our backs. They actually take all the things that we make and all the things that we do, and they just control access to them. They just put them behind a paywall. So what if having to go through the corporation, we just went around them? That's how we show them that they'll leave the burning house. Because right now we're stuck in this corporate world and people are like, well, I don't know where else to go. I was born in this house. Right? And it's only when we say, well, what if we go there? We can't say, well, what if we built a house right there? People will never leave. We have to say, what about that house that's being built right there? So let's use the protest not as the end goal, Let's use the protest as the recruiting center for how we build that house. That's what this really is. That's the shift and the coupling and the understanding that we need to make. So that is what we are doing. So please join the Discord. The Discord is where we answer the question, why hasn't our voice been heard? And our voice hasn't been heard because we are in no position to make demands, because we don't have any leverage. And we don't have any leverage because our strikes and our boycotts are not effective. Our strikes are not effective because we don't have economic freedom. And our boycotts are not effective because we do not have non-corporate options to support us. So rather than having protesting be the measure of how successful we are, let's have protesting be just the first step. Protesting is where we recruit people to build the local alternatives that make boycotts stronger. It's where we recruit people to build more local alternatives that can actually make a parallel economy possible, in which case a strike would be possible. So we have to understand that this feedback loop that we are building, mass action brings people. The more people we have, the more structure we can build. The more structure we have built, the bigger the mass action gets. I'm not live on Discord right now. It's basically just a messaging board, Terry. I can hop in there right now and chat with you and help you as soon as we're done. But this is the feedback loop we all need to understand. Mass actions bring the people, but mass actions are not the end goal. Mass actions need to recruit people to build more infrastructure so we can boycott longer, so we can protest stronger, so that we can actually strike. Because the only leverage, because we need to ask, why aren't they listening to us? And they're listening to us because we have no leverage. We have no leverage because we depend on the system. We're trying to bite the hand that feeds us. And we're saying, hey, let me bite the hand. And they're like, no, not until you force us. So we need to build the leverage to force, nom, David. Love having you back, my friend. We need to force them to have the leverage to say, all right, you need a chomp. Because that's really what happened. The corporations knew that chomp was coming, and the corporations chose authoritarianism. They chose fascism because they didn't want a little chomp. Just a little slap on the wrist. We would have said, you guys have been douches for the last 20 years. And we tried to fix it during Occupy Wall Street. But that's when we realized that you had taken away all the mechanisms that made our voice heard. And for the last 20 years, we've been trying to make our voices heard. But damn, you took the politicians on our side, away from our side. Merv, good to see you. And damn, you made it so that the media freaking lies to us and divides us. And they knew that when democracy stood in the way of their profits, that they were going to attack it. And that's how we got to where we are now. So that's why striking is the most powerful thing we can do, but we can't strike until we can effectively boycott. Because in order to boycott, we need options. And in order to strike, we need options too. So it starts off building back the infrastructure that we need to actually win long term. To win long term, we need local alternatives and non-corporate options. But in order to build those, we need people. So I hate the 3.5% analogy. 3.5% works when the institutions of power in a society work for the people. When the media has been completely captured by the very interests that are pushing you down, when the politicians do not work to fix the imbalance, but rather work to widen the gap because they now work for corporations instead of people. It doesn't matter how many people protest when the very next day we have to go back and buy our food from the corporate-owned grocery stores, right? We have to go back and pay our health insurance to the corporations, pay our rent and our mortgage to the corporations. So the 3.5% is never going to matter until we take back some leverage. And that's where. So we're going to block anybody that tries to advocate anything other than peace. Because if we try to not do anything other than peace, then we've really stopped our effectiveness. We can't do anything, right? Yeah, Dave, it's people don't understand that, like, we can't screw ourselves over economically, because then we're just cutting off our nose to spite our face, because we are so boxed in economically that we can't do anything politically. So if we are non-peaceful, we are just doing the same thing, right? We're not creating options. We're actually reducing the amount of options that we have. Boycotts work when you have somewhere to boycott to. 80% of Americans, probably closer to like 85% of Americans, their most efficient and effective, and really their habit is to go to the local grocery store. How can you say boycotts work when the majority of us buy our food from corporations? How can we say boycotts work when every one of us buys our health insurance from corporations? How would we boycott them? You know that your mortgage and your rent, that goes to a corporation. So how can boycotts be effective if we don't have any non-corporate alternatives for the things we need to live? If every person in America had a local grocery store that was just as efficient as the corporate one, we would go there, but we don't. America isn't in this position because people aren't awake. It's in this position because the people that are awake don't have local options. So what we're saying is boycotts only work if we have local options. So what we need to do is build those local options, because in many cases, they are no longer there and they're not coming back. So we have to ask, how do we get our voices heard? We make boycotting more effective. How do we make boycotting more effective? We build local alternatives. So Censored, this is not the place that we go without hope, because we don't look for reasons why things won't happen. We realize that if the lobbyists do come after us, we're doing the right thing. I don't know about you, but when somebody tells me to stop doing something, I kind of want to do it till the end of time. I think a lot of other people are like that too. Because when they tell us that we can't buy eggs from our neighbor, that's when shit changes. When they tell us that, unfortunately, the lobbyists are going to deter you from doing this, that's when we do it out of spite. See, I need my boy here. That's what we are understanding, because I think that if we can get people excited about non-corporate options, that we don't fix the current system. We get people to abandon it for something better, something that works for them. And if we know anything about humans, getting humans to change their mind is really freaking hard. If everybody grew up with horses and you just talked about a car, it would be hard for them to see it. But if you just start driving around your car and they're like, dang, that could really work for me, well, then you're not going to argue with them about changing their minds. They're just going to change their minds. So that's what we are building. Local alternatives, non-corporate options that we don't have to argue with people. Oh, do this because it's better for the environment and better for your community, and we need to screw over the corporations. No, do this because it's cheaper, it's more efficient, and it's local. And if you don't want to, that's fine, right? Because we're building something not based on convincing people. We're building something that's going to be so good that people just leave the old option and come to this one. Absolutely, Philly. That's the main thing, is I think we know it won't happen overnight. We won't be here by Christmas, right? But if we understand that it's about all of us using our little spark to light the next person's spark, and they like the next person's spark, because all of us really are sick of being treated like less than human by corporations. So if we build local options that treat us like humans, those places are going to win. And at the same time, they're going to reduce our dependence on the corporations. All right, everybody. I appreciate you all. Join the Discord if you have not yet. In the Discord, we break out by state. Fantas, that is exactly what this is, because once people understand that the food distributor is buying 1,000 eggs a week from the local farmer, people will start getting their own chickens and offering, hey, can I sell you 50 eggs a week? Can I be a part of that? Hey, I heard that once a quarter your group does a cow purchase. Well, I got a cow that I can butcher. Would you guys buy that from me instead of the farmer? Then we have more people saying, oh, well, if these people are buying 1,000 veggie boxes every single week, what if getting it from all of the corporation, all of the farmers, we start doing it ourselves as well too, right? Well, that's the thing, right, Monkey? Is we don't need to start from scratch, right? We take the ideas that other people are using and we change it. Well, mind me, it's not just sharing. We are building it. It's not just talking about what's wrong. It's building what is right. But Monkey, you are so right. And that's where the infrastructure is key. And other people that are already building this want to share it. So I would love for you, if you could send us a message here on Instagram, go ahead. And y'all follow us on YouTube if you can too. T Prod, appreciate you. So go follow us on YouTube if you can, because we get so censored everywhere else. In order to learn more, right there at the bottom where my finger is pointing, the pinned comment is our Discord. The pinned comment is our Discord. The Discord is where we break out by states. Don Hayes would love to have you there. Monkey would love to have you there. Really want to hear about that Ithaca store you were talking about. I am live every day at 11 a.m. We know, Philly, it's just some people are on a lot of it. And YouTube is more consistent. It doesn't it's not like here and there. And YouTube, the more people we get watching and commenting on YouTube, the bigger YouTube will be. And then the more stable YouTube becomes, because we really like YouTube to be our main hub, because the more people are there, YouTube will start recommending, and people stay and listen a lot. So people need to hear this. So appreciate you, Philly, because it really is one of even the smallest things you can do is welcoming people into this community too. One of the best things we can do is by telling people, being in these comments, just listening. And then if somebody is asking questions, if somebody is skeptical, to say no, I've been listening for a little while, this shit works. And to be a part of the team that draws people from well, is it the system or is it just me? Oh, it is definitely the system, but we need to get better leaders, And then maybe it's, well, no, leaders are important, but so is where we get our food from. And maybe the reason leaders suck so bad is because the corporations that they work for control everything, right? Appreciate everybody. Gonna get going. Have a good day, y'all. Bye.